Hello crafty friends and welcome into this special episode of The Thoughtful Knitter. It seems a bit late to be saying Happy New Year because we are now 3/4 of the way through January, but this is my first episode of 2022, so Happy New Year and I hope it has treated you well so far. My name is Ailey. I'm coming to you from the very far north of Scotland. This is going to be quite a different episode to normal. Basically, life is what happens when you start making plans. I had intended to record these episodes between Christmas and New Year, and then they got rescheduled to January, which we are now in. But I thought I would have lots of time on my hands in January because I was to be going to an event in London, and I was 100% convinced that it would be cancelled because if it had been in Scotland it would have been, but it wasn't. So I'm now in the position that I have been skedaddling across the country and it's almost time for me to go back to work. So yes, this is a bit more delayed than I had intended. As I've said, it's not going to be a usual episode, so if this is the first time you've watched, you might want to go and check out some of the normal episodes. I think there are 7 of them. You can find them on my channel under videos. Yeah, so this is just going to be a kind of special episode where I'm going to go through 3 of the knits that feature in my introduction to these videos, and I'm also going to answer some of the questions that you had asked me. I'm realising now that there might not be as much of an appetite for hearing about these older knits as I had thought. I think most of you probably just wanted to hear about the sock garland, which I spoke about in my last episode. But as I've asked you all for questions, I thought I would go ahead and do these short episodes because they won't fit into my usual videos, because I try to keep those shorter for several reasons. Firstly, I'd like there to be an option of shorter podcast videos for people who struggle to concentrate due to fatigue. Also, if I try to chat a monologue for any longer than that, I get completely exhausted. And thirdly, it takes ages and ages and ages to upload anything that's over half an hour. So yeah, that's a wee bit of background as to why I'm going ahead with these videos. And before I do that though, I'm gonna have a quick chat about our make-along that is running at the moment. So if you don't want to hear about that, just skip ahead to the next section, but we're going to go into that just now, just for a short while. Anyone who watched episode 6 will know that we have a craft along running at the moment. It is a make along. It's open to any craft whatsoever, including things like baking and gardening and anything you make with your hands. It's basically a chance to dabble in crafts other than your main craft, and just have a go at something new or something you don't often spend time doing. It is running from the 21st of December 2021 until the 20th of March this year. You can enter by posting on Instagram using the hashtag Eclectic Crafting MAL. I'll put it on the screen. To be in with the chance of winning some prizes, you need to post your finished object with the specific hashtag Eclectic Crafting MAL FO. Again, I'll put that on the screen. Other ways to enter are by emailing me a copy of your finished object or your works in progress. My plan is to show some photos of what you've been up to on these episodes, so if you don't want that to happen, just let me know. And there's also a wee chat group going on Discord. It's an app that you can download for free. It's kind of like WhatsApp, that sort of thing. And I'll put the details below in the description box, which is where you will also find the show notes. I forgot to say that. Yeah, I'll put the details below of how you can join that group, but there's also a wee bit on the community tab on my channel, which you can find using the YouTube app. I'm not sure how it works on a browser because that's not how I access YouTube, but yeah, all the information you need will either be in the description box below or you can find it there. Yeah, so just a wee bit about that was just to let you know what's happening, that it's still running for a good while yet. You've got plenty of time to enter. Some prizes have started to arrive, so I'll quickly show you what's arrived so far, and I'll also show you what I've been up to. So let's get on to the good stuff, the prizes. The first prize that I have is one that I bought myself. It's a little kit for embroidery. There you go. I think it's quite pretty. You can see a bit better there. So it's an embroidery kit. That's one that I had myself. I've also received from a very generous viewer, Anna, over in Germany, some tatted bracelets and earrings. So she has made these herself. She doesn't sell them online at the moment, but I'll let you know if she does start doing that. I'll put a link on for her Instagram handle as well if you want to follow her. But she has sent quite a few, so these are like this. I think this is going to be a wee kit here. Not a kit, but a set. Sorry about the light. It's kind of reflecting there. But a beautiful bracelet and earrings. Then another couple of bracelets here that are similar pattern but different colours. And they're wonderful to look at, the tiny, tiny, tiny little knots. I don't know how she's got the patience to make them. But so they have arrived. And the final one that's arrived for now is this lovely ink and watercolour illustration that's been done by Diana Bloom. It is an Icelandic sheep. So it comes with a mount and I don't know. Hopefully I'm doing that justice. It's really lovely. Now Diana has a YouTube channel and she's an artist, so she has a studio vlog which is really relaxing, and she also knits, spins, does all sorts of things. She quite often has baking and things on there as well, so I would definitely recommend giving her a follow. So like I said, you can enter with any craft whatsoever. I started this basically because I had received a little craft pod, which is a little set of different crafts that you can try out for my birthday last year, and I wanted an excuse to set time aside to get on with those. So far I have done some cross stitch. I've got a little, there we go, little green finch. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I'm not really the sort of person that would have this on the wall, so please tell me what you do with your cross stitch if you don't put it on your wall. I'd like to know. Could I maybe put it on a bag or something? Yeah, suggestions are most welcome. So that's the first thing that I've done, and at the moment I am very slowly working my way through some French knots, making this little thing here. So it's a little needle book. So I'm just doing the embroidery part at the moment, which is looking like this. Don't look too closely. Yeah, some of my French knots are better than others. But it's been really fun and really relaxing, and I've been listening to a few audio podcasts while I've been doing those because I need to be looking at what I'm doing. So that's been really nice. That's all I wanted to say about the make along for now. Let's jump into what I'm wearing. As I've promised, I'm going to chat to you about some of the knits from my introduction, the musical part of my introduction. First of all, I just wanted to say that there was no special thought particularly that went into choosing which knits featured there. It was basically ones that I had nice pictures of. So what you'll find is quite a few of them are test knits, because when I do a test knit I really try to get a nice picture. But yeah, I mean it's mostly accessories that are in the introduction, but I do probably knit more garments than accessories these days. But yeah, that being said, let's talk about the first one, which makes sense to talk about the one I'm wearing. So this is the Petit Jardin by Anne B. Henson. I think I randomly found it on Ravelry one day and quite liked it. It's got a interesting yoke, which you can kind of see. And when I saw the pattern, I thought I think it was summer, or it was springtime, it was coming up to summer last year, and I had 2 lonely skeins of indie dyed yarn in my stash, and I thought, oh, I could just fade these together and have a little summer t-shirt out of them, because I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with 2 single skeins. So that's what I did. So I'm going to insert some pictures of the finished object, but I'll give you a quick look here too and hope that the light doesn't blow out too much. So hopefully you got a bit of an idea there. I knitted these out of 2 skeins from Cookston Crafts, who is an indie dyer based in Aberdeenshire, Ellen in Aberdeenshire, and she has actually just this week started podcasting. So if you like Aberdeenshire accents and indie dyed yarn, I would definitely recommend it. She is a natural. Yeah, so her first episode is up. I'll put it on the screen, but it is Cookston Crafts podcast. So let's tell you a little bit more about these yarns. The top one here, the lighter one, is her 4-ply sock yarn, which is a fingering weight. It is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and it is in the colourway Pitfour Lake. It's a lovely, it's got speckles of blues and different kind of greens and the odd dark bit of green in there too. So the whole top here until just below my bust is that colour. And then this darker colour here, which has actually got some quite nice browns, and it does have the odd teal and white and things popping through it as well. That is her high twist base, again 4-ply fingering weight, and it is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. The finished garment is shorter than I would like, but I ran out of yarn, so that is how long it is. Actually, if anybody can help me on this, right, so I nearly always have to lengthen my garments because I'm quite a small person widthwise. I kind of wear smaller sizes, but I'm average size in height, so I'm 5'6", which is pretty much average, and I find that patterns for smaller sizes tend to be assuming that you're also a shorter person, so I have to lengthen them anyway. Same in shops, I quite often have to, I find that the shoulders are too close in, that sort of thing. But also I am pear shaped, and yeah, cropped things do not look great on me. Mainly because no matter what pair of jeans I buy, if they're high-waisted, they end up falling down because they fit on my hips but they're gaping at the waist, and yeah, they fall down. So please tell me if you have ever found a pair of high-waisted trousers or jeans that fit you, if you're the same shape as me, or how you get around it, because I find that belts just bunch up, and yeah, so I don't know, are we buying braces these days? Please help. Anyway, on that tangent, what else can I tell you about this? It was really interesting to knit. It had this detailed yoke here. It also has a finished interesting bit here, which you can probably see a bit better on the bottom. Flashing my vest underneath. Yeah, and it's finished off with I-cords. No, it's not. It's finished off with an I-cord in the bottom and with ribbon here. What else can I tell you about it? I knit this on a 3.5mm needle. Yeah, it was quite a quick knit because it was 2 skeins for me. Yeah, I enjoyed it. There were some kind of different stitches, like these wee gathered ones here, that were quite interesting. Yeah, and I think at the time it really appealed because I think I'd knit my first 2 ranunculi, and I thought, oh, I don't need another one, although I then went on and knit another one, but maybe something quite similar with a textured lacy yoke and a t-shirt for the summer. So yeah, that's the story behind this knit. My next one is this cowl. Light's kind of going funny. It is a cabled cowl. Is that a bit? That's a bit better. A cabled cowl. This was a test knit for Ashley Price. I'll put the details on the screen. The original is half this size, so it's like that. But I decided I wanted one that would wrap round twice. Come see. And yeah, I wore this a lot last year. I haven't worn it so much this year, but it is super cozy. I do like it. And it is knit on a 4mm needle. Yes. And I knit this in Black Isle Yarns Auchen Sport Wheat. And this is the undyed yarn. I've spoken about it before in previous episodes because I've knit other projects in it, but Black Isle Yarns are kind of local to me. She is just north of Inverness, and she sources all of her yarns locally, all of her fleeces locally. She skirts them all, she sends them off for spinning, and then she naturally dyes them when she gets them home. So I'm a big fan of Julie at Black Isle Yarns, and I am a massive fan of this yarn. It is 40% Blue-Faced Leicester, 30% Cheviot and 30% Shetland, and it is a woolen spun yarn, so it's really lofty, it's really warm, it is actually very soft. Yeah, so that's this one. The final project that I'm going to speak about today is the Star Blanket, which is a crochet project. I don't have it anymore, it's been given to a baby a long time ago, I think maybe 3 years ago now. But it is a free pattern from Bernat Design Studio. It's called the Star Blanket. I crocheted it on a 4mm hook, and I used a Serger Snuggly Patter Cake. Yes, Patter Cake DK in the colourway Teacup. So it did most of the colour changing for me. I did get a bit fussy, and if it was going to change colour mid-row, I did it myself. I pulled back to the start of the row and then reduced the new colour at the start of each row, because I'm a bit anal like that. So yeah, I've crocheted a couple of these. They are really easy and I just think they're quite fun. They remind me a bit of Maggie from The Simpsons with her little star suit on. So a star blanket for a baby is quite cute. I only used one cake of this, which is 150 grams, it's DK weight. It could do with being bigger, I would say, but I only had one at the time. So yeah, that's a nice quick project if you've got a baby to be making something for, and it's a free pattern, so even better. Yeah, so those are the projects that I'm going to speak about today. I will release another video covering the accessories in the introduction. So there are a couple of hats and a couple of pairs of mitts. But now we're going to go on to answering some questions. Okay, are you ready for story time? I'm going to chat to you about my knitting story because that was by far the most popular question. Different iterations like how long have I been knitting, when did I learn to knit, who taught me, what I enjoy knitting, that sort of thing. So let's go back to the start. I don't actually remember learning how to knit. It was a long time ago. I learned when I was really quite little. I asked my mum and she thinks I was about 5, and she can't really remember who taught me. I think it was a combination between her and my nana, who was my paternal grandmother. She was a big knitter. She was a beautiful knitter, but she had rheumatoid arthritis and in her later years wasn't able to knit at all. But thankfully she still could when I was little, and so she passed that on, and also crochet and other kind of little fibre crafty things. So yes, I learnt many moons ago, and I suppose it's a bit like muscle memory. Once you've learnt it, you don't really forget it. So yeah, I remember knitting. I probably knitted things for my dolls. I don't remember. I do remember one Christmas, my sister, my mum and myself all knitted little snowmen for the tree, and it was quite funny because I was like a really tight knitter when I first learned, and it was like trying to get it across the needles. So mine ended up being like minuscule. Mum's was the proper size, and then my sister, she was a really loose knitter, so hers was huge and it had like stuffing coming out of it. But yeah, so we had those on the tree for many years, but I don't know if they're still there. My mum would have them if so. So yeah, I remember knitting that. I remember when we went to high school, we had home economics in first and second year, and they did knitting and other kinds of crafts. So I remember knitting some kind of doll or something at that point, because I could already knit. I didn't have to be taught, I just made something. I think we knitted when we were at primary school too. We had a lady who used to come round and teach us different crafts. She was a farmer's wife. I don't think anything like that happens in schools anymore. And then I remember knitting a cardigan for somebody in the village was having a baby, and I was probably about 14 at the time. And then I just kind of left it, went off, did other things, didn't really spend a lot of time knitting, kind of went backwards and forwards. Anytime somebody was having a baby or something, I might dabble in it, but it was very much make a project and then leave it again until I needed to pick it up for another project or present. And then I would say probably late 2013 would be when I really got back into knitting. At that point I had been very unwell for about 10 months, finding myself with a huge amount of time on my hands and not knowing how to fill it because I had time but no energy. But my sister, she was teaching at the time in a school for excluded pupils and non-attenders, and she had decided to do a project with them where they were knitting squares to make into a blanket to send to a charity. And being the children they were, she was lucky if she got one square out of them. So we happened to be visiting a friend one weekend and she brought knitting needles and wool with her so that we could knit some as well. And like I say, it's like riding a bike, you don't forget, so I just knitted away and that was that. And then I kind of got back into it and started, it was a really nice way. The one I remember most is that at that point, one of my good friends from school, his wife had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and they live like 5-hour drive away from me. I was too poorly to go and see them and provide support that way. I was too poor to buy the yarn because I wasn't, I was hardly working. So my sister really graciously bought the yarn for me. So she paid for it and I put in the work, and we made a hat so that my friend's wife could wear it after chemo. And I think that kind of opened the gates for me. It provided me with not only something that I could do that felt productive, that was just like a row at a time, no matter how tired you were, you could do a little bit, but it also provided that connection. So I was able to make things for people, pour love into them, even though I couldn't see them in person. So that's really when I got back into knitting, and knitted in isolation really. I didn't think anybody under the age of 60 knitted. I thought it was just me for years, and knitted from books. There was a local haberdashery shop that had some patterns that you could buy. I did struggle to find ones that I liked, but I just kind of knitted a few things, mainly I would say presents, and mainly for babies because there were a lot of them coming along at that point. Yeah, and up until I think it was early 2018, I just knitted in isolation, and then at that point I attended a sewing class and learnt how to knit learnt how to sew a tote bag. And during the chat there we got to speaking about different craft retreats and things, and the lady who was running it said, oh well, there's a knitting retreat. I mentioned that I knit, and she said, oh well, there's a knitting retreat in John O'Groats, and I was like, is there? Hadn't heard of it before, so went a bit of a sleuth, went and did some checking online and found Louise Hunt, who is the Caithness Craft Collective. She has an audio podcast. I've spoken about her before. You should all listen to her. She's been doing it for years. So yeah, I found her, discovered that I could go to this said knitting retreat in the summer, and in that in-between time, well, it was late spring, in that in-between time I discovered Ravelry, and I discovered Instagram and other podcasts, and yes, my queue grew exponentially, and yeah, I haven't really looked back. I can't really tell you when I became one of these knitters that always has a project in the go, when I transitioned from making a thing and then having a break, but yeah, it's something I do every day. Somebody did ask, when do I knit? Do I have a specific time? I wouldn't say I do. I probably always knit a little bit in the morning, definitely in the evenings. But yeah, I find it really relaxing. So yeah, if I was stressed out about something, just getting a few rolls in would definitely kind of recenter me. But yeah, I enjoy the process, I enjoy the product, I have no problem whatsoever with giving my knits away, because a lot of what I enjoy is the thought and intention behind it, and making something for somebody else is something that brings me a lot of joy. Yeah, so let me see if there's any other questions on that theme. A few folk had asked what my favourite thing to knit is, and I would say if I could only knit one thing for the rest of my life, it would be hats. I love knitting hats. I have far too many. Everyone else has far too many. I have to really stop myself from casting them on, but I really, really love knitting hats. Second on my list would be garments. Yeah, again, I have too many. But I do really enjoy those. I think I probably enjoy children's and babies' garments more, because you don't have these miles and miles and miles of stocking stitch. I do prefer a project that's got a bit of interest, although there are definitely times when I need to just mindlessly knit stocking stitch. But yeah, those are the things I would say I enjoy knitting most. Another question was a favourite yarn. That's quite difficult. I'm not very good at choosing favourites, but I would say over the last couple of years, if I had to choose one, it would be the Ochim base from Black Isle Yarns, the one that I showed you earlier, that the cowl, the Clear Lake cowl, was knit in. It's beautiful, it's got beautiful bounce, I love the provenance of it, I love that all of the yarn is sourced locally, and that it is spun at the New Lanark Mill, which is a historical mill down in the central belt of Scotland. And yeah, Julie is a beautiful dyer as well. I really like natural dyes, I find them fascinating. So yeah, that would be my favourite yarn. Yeah, it's not the cheapest, but I think it is worth every penny considering the work that goes into it. Yeah, so what else? Somebody had asked me what I do to soothe my hands when they start to ache from knitting, and I would say I do nothing, and I should learn how to do something. So if anyone has any tips, please share them below. I think all I do is kind of push my hands back like that, and kind of, so I'll kind of do that. I've heard that pushing in here is a good idea between your knuckles. And I've also, but have not investigated, I'm also aware that Shillisdare Yarn, who are based over on the Isle of Skye, I think they are called the Isle of Skye Natural Dyeing Co. on Instagram. I'll put it on the screen, but on their Instagram account they have saved to their highlights, they have a yoga for knitters section. So they have a bricks and mortar shop where they sell their naturally dyed yarns, but they also have a yoga studio and a bed and breakfast. So yeah, that might be worth checking out, anybody who's interested, and I should take note of that myself and do so, because I don't want to get to the point where I have knitting related injuries and I can't knit. Yeah, and the only other question that I wanted to answer today was somebody had asked if I have ever been to Shetland Wool Week. And the sad answer is no, I have not. And I would love to. It is definitely on my bucket list. Yeah, you have to be pretty well organised to get to Shetland Wool Week though. You need to be booking your accommodation, I think, a year in advance. So I had thought about going last year before pandemic and everything hit, because I had a big birthday last year, but yeah, I don't have any imminent plans to go, but it's definitely on my to-do list. I'm definitely wanting to go to Shetland Wool Week. Yeah, so if any of you guys have been, do let me know what you thought of it. I enjoyed the last couple of years. They had quite a lot of virtual involvement, and I think that will probably continue going forward, which is fantastic if you're not able to travel, because weirdly, although I live at the very top of the Scottish mainland, it's not that easy for me to get to Shetland. I would either have to drive the whole way down to Inverness, which is over 100 miles away, to then fly up to Shetland, or I think twice a week you can go from Orkney. There's a boat that goes every day from Aberdeen, but it stops in at Orkney a couple of times a week, but it doesn't coincide with the ferries that leave from Caithness. Yeah. So yeah, I've discovered this before trying to get to Shetland. I've been twice and it's not the easiest place to get to from another remote place. But yeah, those were the questions that I wanted to answer today. I'm going to answer the rest of them in the next special episode, which I hope to have out very shortly after this one. I am bound to have forgotten all sorts of things that I should have said to you guys. There is an Instagram account for this channel. It's called The Thoughtful Knitter, and probably other things that I've forgotten. But yeah, I will be back on your screen soon, I'm sure. So in the meantime, I hope you have a good few days of stitching. I hope that you're getting through January as best you can. I know it's not an easy month for a lot of people, and I hope you're keeping well. Take care of yourselves for now, and I will see you soon. Bye.